What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave Week in Review. We do this every Saturday where we like to look back at this past week in gaming news, take a look at your comments that you leave below the videos, and really see what you guys had to say throughout the week. Should be a lot of fun because we had some good topics this week, so let's get into it. On Monday, we went over comments from Monster Hunter World developers as to why it was not developed and put on the Nintendo Switch alongside other consoles. According to developers, development started almost 4 years ago, before the Switch was available. TM Tigran says, "You forgot one thing. Capcom knew about the Switch very early on. After all, they specifically asked for extra RAM, so that must have been darn early. Maybe you can use this excuse for Monster Hunter, but this excuse does not fly for Okami, Disney Afternoon, and Mega Man Legacy Collection." I was a little surprised. I will say that something like Okami, I mentioned, like Okami, I'm sure it was in development a little while ago for the porting process, but it is a little odd that it wasn't on the Switch. I just feel like Capcom did not set it up originally for the Switch because, as we've seen with a lot of these developers, they were very timid to develop for the Switch after seeing what happened with the Wii U. They kind of wanted to see how it would turn out. However, you mentioned that the Capcom knew about it early on. I mean, they started developing Monster Hunter World like 4 years ago, as they said, just about. That would put it back in 2014. That would predate the Tegra X1 completely, just the chip that they were using in the Switch. And you mentioned that Capcom asked for an extra gigabyte of RAM. We believe that was sometime in 2016 is what we're thinking in this case. And then we heard about, obviously, dev kits went out sometime in July or August. So they still, I mean, you're not going to get Monster Hunter World done, moved over to the Switch for how big it is. I'm playing it now, and it is a very large game. Now, according to what they've said, Capcom asked for an extra gigabyte of RAM, probably for more future things coming up in the future. And more than likely what happened was Capcom saw that it was 3 gigabytes is what I believe was going on. 3 gigabytes, which would more so mirror what we're used to seeing in things like the Shield TV, for example. They saw that, they said, hey, we want that extra gigabyte, so they added one in. That's not normal for the X1 unless you use the Switch. The Switch has an X1 that's paired with 4 gigabytes of RAM, which again isn't usual with the Shield TV. So yes, Capcom knew about the Switch early on, probably more so than a lot of developers, but it definitely still wouldn't have been enough time to get something like Monster Hunter World ported over. That's a bit of a bigger project. Something like Doom probably was able to be done. Again, they outsourced it anyway to Panic Button, but because that game's a bit smaller than something like Monster Hunter World, which is massive, and of course you see kind of how it runs on the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One, it runs okay, but it's definitely not a smooth frame rate. So they still need to work that out. And they've been working on that for 4 years. I think it would take a little while to get that moved over to the Switch. Honestly, I would rather them either move Double Cross over and actually localize that, bring it west, or just develop their own Monster Hunter game. I don't think Monster Hunter World needs to be on the Switch. Really, the Monster Hunter franchise should be, but it doesn't have to be World. It can be something else. It can be its own Monster Hunter game that gets put on the Switch. Tuesday, we went over Yuji Naka joining Square Enix to pursue a new project. Mr. Naka was responsible for developing Sonic the Hedgehog and brings some great talent to Square. Now, the big question is, what will he be working on? Dragon Lord 222 says it's Naka, not Nakata. I've heard it both ways. Lynn the Cosmic Archer says, I'd love to see Naka be the director of a Chrono Trigger remake, but dreaming is still a thing. Yeah, you just brought up Chrono Trigger, and that's something I would love to see, a remake of Chrono Trigger on something like newer consoles, Switch, PS4, Xbox One, PC, whatever, right? I think Chrono Trigger would do very well. The DS remake, from what I remember, really, they just ported it to DS. By the way, probably the best version of the game. Way better than the PS1 version. Man, the load times just going from the menu to the map took forever. I mean, forever is, maybe that's a bad term. Longer than 10 seconds sometimes. It was crazy. It was weird. But the DS version, I think, is the best way to play that game. Even over the Super Nintendo, I think the DS version is still a little better. But it'd be great to see them fully remake that. Would they put someone like Yuji Naka on that? Probably not. Honestly, if they pull him in for what he has on his resume, just let him go to town. Give him the budget, give him the team, and let him develop his own IP, for example. Let him develop his own platformer, maybe, or maybe just go straight up with an RPG that's very in depth. I mean, he did a lot of Phantasy Star, so yeah, let him get after it. I think with that budget and the team and the talent they have over at Square, mixed with someone like Yuji Naka, they could have some big things coming up. And I just look forward to whatever he's developing. Here's the thing: if it's a new IP, if it's a new game, we probably won't hear about it or see it for like 2 years. So it's going to be a while. We'll just remember now that he's on that team, and we'll just keep an eye out for his project. Keep in mind, he could have also been added to a team. So he could maybe be helping with something like Final Fantasy VII Remake, just to help get it out the door. Maybe he's there to help finish up parts of Kingdom Hearts. Who knows? They could have pulled him in for that and then let him work on his own project. Or hey, maybe we won't see him for a couple years and he'll pop up with some cool new game or something. Wednesday, we took a look at changes to the Xbox Game Pass that would add day one Microsoft Studio games to the lineup. These games can be played on release day, and the first one to be added will be Sea of Thieves. God of War also got a release date for April 20th, placing it on the same day as Nintendo's Labo. And an email says, there's no way Game Pass stays $10. It's an introductory offer, just like Netflix and Prime. You know, I had this exact same thought. $10 just seems like too good of a deal, honestly, with something like Game Pass. Keep in mind, you still need Xbox Live. However, most of us, I think at this point, look around for Xbox Live membership, if you know what I mean, like Amazon, eBay. They're always daily deals that pop up. Most times you can get something like Xbox Live for like $37, $38. Generally, you don't have to pay the full $60. I think they even had a family pricing plan where it was like $25 per Xbox Live membership if you bought them in quantities of 4. So you and 3 friends get together and you can all get Xbox Live. I'll double check if they're still doing that. But I remember seeing that and I was like, man, Xbox Live is actually cheaper than $60. I know we say 60, but if you shop around, you find it. Still, you need that along with Game Pass. But really the value with Game Pass, if they really are adding these games in permanently, as we've seen from people like Aaron Greenberg and at this point Larry Herb or Major Nelson on Twitter saying this, that's a good value for $10 a month. I mean, really, if you're a big Microsoft fan, a big Xbox fan, and you buy all the first-party titles, if they release 3 titles in the year and you just happen to have Game Pass, you're end up saving money because of all the extra games on there along with the first party games. So I think you might be right. This might be something that ends up ticking up in price. Like Netflix, man, they tick up in price every year or two. They're like, oh, we're raising it $2 or something. It happens. You know, it's happened a couple times now. So yeah, I think they will eventually move it up and might end up topping out at like $15 in the next couple years. But still, I think you're absolutely right. That $10 is there to get people on the subscription service and then raise it just a little bit now and then to get people and then keep them on, because it's not a huge increase, but eventually you're going to look back and be like, oh wow, it cost me 50% more than it did when I signed up. Thursday, we talked about BioWare employees feeling pressure to produce a solid game in Anthem. Originally reported on Kotaku, BioWare developers spoke about putting everything they had behind Anthem and talked about the influence YouTubers specifically have had against EA. Glade XD says, it's a real shame when great studios like BioWare end up in predicaments like these when under publishers like EA. I wish more devs went the independent route like the makers of Hellblade, but I know it isn't easy and a big risk for larger projects. Oh, trust me, I would love to see BioWare kind of in the same situation that Ninja Theory found themselves in, where they could fully fund and put their game out there with Hellblade. I mean, it came out, it was half the price of normal games. They considered it a AA game. They made their money back. They're actually making profit now, despite doing a lot of things with charity work where they donated profits to different charities and everything. So I would love to see BioWare do that. Unfortunately, after they sold out, well, not the developers at the bottom, but the people at the top sold out to EA. EA comes in, you give them a bunch of money, they're going to hand you the keys to the developers at the ground floor. So they didn't really have a lot of say over that, but it's still their job and livelihoods that are on the line with Anthem. And it's a shame, you're right, because EA is like a cloud over a good development studio. BioWare is good. I think BioWare is a good studio that's brought us some great games in the past. It's just a shame that now EA is really tarnishing what they can do. DICE has been beaten up to death over Battlefront 2, and while I know no one likes the microtransactions or what they tried to force in, I can at least look at that game and say, okay, it's a good-looking game, seems to play well enough, but no one likes it because, well, not no one, but a lot of people don't like it, as we've seen online, a lot of outrage, and DICE is kind of caught in the middle. BioWare may end up in that same situation, and I have a feeling BioWare is more expendable to someone like EA than DICE is. DICE, I don't think will really ever get cut, but BioWare, I feel less safe with BioWare, to be honest, after what happened with Mass Effect, where they just cut down a whole leg of BioWare, a whole studio. I don't be surprised if Anthem doesn't go that well, if we're adding BioWare's name to the list with Visceral Studios. Finally, on Friday, we went over Square Enix's comments surrounding a possible Switch port of Secret of Mana Remake or a localization of the Secret of Mana collection. The producer of the series voiced a sense of surprise around the demand from fans and says they heard the fan base desire to have those games on the Switch. Dana Adams says, "Let's be real, Secret of Mana is on the SNES Classic. Square Enix are absolutely aware of the game's popularity with Nintendo fans. They're just playing dumb to dodge some fan wrath for not starting the port process sooner." Yeah, you could be absolutely right about that. In fact, you probably are. We heard all about Japanese developers being caught off guard by the Switch success, right? Even places like Bandai Namco expressed regret even that they weren't on top of it sooner, and pretty much vowed to investors we'll be on Switch right away. And they kind of have been now, right? They've been kind of full steam ahead for Switch. I think Square at this point has also been caught off guard, and they're working to get some of their games over to the Switch as well. Also, really funny, somebody in the comments, I'm trying to think, it might have been this one, they asked me why I call them Square rather than Square Enix. If you're a little older and you were more so around during the PS1 days of those RPGs and they were Square Soft, we would usually say just Square. So that's sometimes why I call Square Enix Square. It wasn't until after the merger between them and Enix that people started calling them Square Enix. So I really still know them as Square from back in the day. Same reason I might call an AMD video card an ATI video card, because I grew up calling it ATI. Yes, I know I've been around for a little while, but that's why I call it Square sometimes. Either way, yes, I think they were caught off guard. I think this is more of an excuse for them to get around the question, why aren't these games that people want on the system? Why are they not on the system? And clearly they know people in the US want something like the Secret of Mana Collection. They want the Secret of Mana remake. It's on the SNES Classic, as you just said right there. So yes, I think they are playing a little coy here. I don't think... originally I was like, okay, maybe there is some sort of Sony exclusivity deal, some kind of deal in the background to get that, specifically the remake, on the Vita of all devices and the PS4. No, it looks like Square is just... they just caught off guard, apparently. I don't know either. Ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for Newswave Week in Review. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button, guys. Really helps out. You guys have been liking the videos a lot, so that's great. The video the other day got over 2,000 likes, which is amazing. So thank you so much for liking these videos. Hit dislike. If not, leave a bunch of comments down below about everything we talked about today. I know some of you guys want to talk about Square. I know it's amazing how some of these developing studios kind of think about some of this stuff. You feel like someone would have stood up in the boardroom and been like, maybe the people, the fan base where this game originated on, maybe they want this game on their system. And then somebody had to have been like, nah, let's put it on the Vita. I don't know. Again, I thought it was Sony. I guess not. I guess they didn't think about it for some reason. And then also, let me know what you think about Anthem. Let me know what you think about the Game Pass. Everything we talked about, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Tune in tonight, 9 p.m. Eastern Time for Spawncast, and I'll see you guys then.